Hey everybody, and welcome to my top 10 games of 2024. Now this is a preliminary version of the list because there are some glaring omissions, games that I've yet to play that I really want to, but due to availability I've just not had the chance. So there are some pretty big names that are not going to be featured, which could later be featured. So I'll make this list today, but I'll also revisit kind of halfway through 2025 when hopefully I've got a chance to play games such as Saltford, games such as Creature Caravan, Galileo Galilei, Nova Roma, lots of different games that I want to play. But still, despite that, there are 10 super solid, in fact great games here to talk about, and I think generally 2024 has been a fantastic year for games, at least for me personally, so I'm excited to talk about these 10. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Additionally, be sure to check out my new game THALAMUS, which will be available in 2025, and be sure to check out the BGG page to keep up with updates. But let's get started. At number 10, I have Windmill Valley, a lovely medium weight Euro by Board and Dice. It's one of those Euros where you have a bunch of mini games held together through a core system. In this one, it is through those windmill boards where each round you're going to rotate it, and it's going to give the option of 2 different actions. But as the game develops, you can improve those actions to make yourself more efficient and more potent at taking those actions. You're basically harvesting these tulips, you're planting them to get victory points, you are going to upgrade your engine, you are unlocking end game objectives and in-game abilities. Lots going on here, but it's still very digestible, easy to teach, lovely visual appeal, and it kind of ticks a lot of boxes of what I want from a Euro of this weight category. So that is Windmill Valley at number 10. At number 9, I have Catman. This is from the Steffenfeld City collection, and this is definitely one of the lighter games of the collection, and in fact one of the lighter games from Feld, full stop. This one has some tropes of games such as The Quest for El Dorado or Footprints, where you are travelling around these modular boards, visiting different locations as you go. This one has a ton of set collection where you're collecting animals, you're collecting these items from these different temples. And I love the way that everything is driven here through dice, but the dice has kind of dual use. So not only is it going to dictate how far you move, but it's also going to show you which kind of commodity you'll get, which can help you compete in different areas of the game. Very smooth, just enough going on to keep it interesting, but still very approachable. You can teach this one to almost gateway gamers, but there are still some thinky decisions here. And I love the way that these action cards can really throw the game on its head and give you some rule-breaking abilities. Very charming, maybe not for everybody when it comes to a Feld game, because again, it is that lighter style of game, and it's not going to give you those real brain-burnery decisions. But for me, it kind of hits that spot of what I want it to be. So that is Catman at number 9. At number 8, I have Harmonies, so a big hit from 2024, and rightly so. This is a great example of a spatial puzzle as you are drafting 3 of these wooden tokens at a time and populating your personal little environment board, trying to fulfill the needs of as many animals as possible. So you can have kind of several of these objective cards active at any time, and you're trying to optimally place these tokens to try and again fulfill their needs. And I like the way that each of these placements can synergize with each other. So like one placement can fulfill the needs of maybe 3 different animals, and I love that kind of optimization puzzle of trying to place this thing just perfectly. But of course you are restricted by what is available in the draft pool. Super smooth, super quick, lovely visual appeal, and I like the way that sometimes if you don't have the the best option in terms of fulfilling your animals' needs, you can just improve your environment as a secondary kind of backup strategy by building tall trees or tall mountains or the longest lake, that kind of thing. So of all these kind of nature spatial puzzles, this one I think is up there with the best of them, if not the definitive best of them, and I adore it. So that is Harmonies at number 8. At number 7, I have Tower Up. So this has been a steady climber for me. When I first played this one, I was maybe a little bit underwhelmed because I wasn't sure what it was going for. But again, the more I'm playing it, the more of those kind of layers of the onion have started to unravel. This is like elegance personified in a board game where all you're doing is you are taking one of these resource cards, which will give you access to a number of these different coloured bricks, or you are building a new tower on the board. Whenever you start a new tower, you have to increase the level of every other surrounding tower. So you need to build up a bit of an arsenal of these different coloured bricks. You are trying to climb these tracks, so basically the taller buildings you contribute to, the more it allows you to climb these tracks, which can give you combos. You are also racing for these public objectives, and that's pretty much it really. So it's definitely a minimalist game where your opportunities quickly dry up. You've got to strike when the iron is hot and grab that perfect spot. And again, always make sure you have those resources in your back pocket to make sure that you can zig and zag at the right time. For me, this one feels like an instant classic because it is so refined. And if you like games like, I don't know, like Manhattan or these kind of older style family weight games, but with a gamer's edge, then Tower Up is a great example. So that is Tower Up at number 7. At number 6, I have Castle Combo. This one, a very small filler game as you are building a 3x3 grid of cards by drafting these different kind of medieval characters, and they'll all score you points in different ways based on what else you have in your grid as well as its kind of spatial position. So for example, some might say you get X amount of points for every one of these tabars that you have, or X amount of points if this is in your middle row. And of course you're trying to maximize each of those placements, but you do have further restrictions because at any time you can only draft from one particular row of cards, and there are 2 active at any time, and you're going to have to pay additional resources in order to change that row and what you want to draft from. So again, another thing where you want to have mitigation tools in your back pocket to make sure that you can get exactly what you want. Always something to go for here, but sometimes you might miss out on those key opportunities. But a lot of game here for a very short time period, only 9 actions through the entire game, and it offers a lot of cool decisions and kind of makes you feel smart when you put things in the right place, and will again milk every point available from each of those cards. I wouldn't say this game does anything revolutionary, but what it does to a very high standard, and it's a great example of its genre, of a small box card game tableau builder, where you can score points in lots of different ways. Tons of variability as well, as those decks of cards are very big. So that is Castle Combo at number 6. At number 5, I have Spectacular. So another nature-themed puzzly game, along the lines of Harmonies, but it definitely does have a distinct feel, as this one not only uses tiles, it also uses dice. And what you're doing is you are building up your little zoo of these animal tiles, trying to keep groups of the same colours together, because that's going to be one of your endgame scoring abilities. Each of these tiles also has, or potentially has, one of these little portions of a circle on it, and if you connect a circle together, you'll build a watchtower, which will unlock further scoring opportunities. I love the drafting system here, as you kind of have this drafting buffet where you have a board with a bunch of dice and tiles on them. You'll take one of them, as well as using one from your own personal collection, and then you'll move it on to the next player. So again, you have kind of a smorgasbord of options there, but it's fleeting because when you choose one thing, the rest of it is going to the next person. So it's almost like a closed draft, but not quite. Very restrictive, especially as the game starts to progress. And if you really want to enhance the level of crunchiness, then you can add in these mission tiles, which will give you further restrictions and again further scoring opportunities. Really fast game. You can play like a 6-player game of this in around 30 minutes, which is really impressive considering how many decisions you are forced to make. And it's very satisfying, but also addictive. And you'll mull over those kind of wasted opportunities by placing things in the wrong place. But super impressed by Spectacular at number 5. At number 4, I have Foundations of Metropolis. So maybe a little bit of a cheat here, because this is pretty much a carbon copy of Foundations of Rome, which of course is not a 2024 game. But this is the only way I've had access to playing Foundations of Metropolis, so I thought I'd put it on the list. This is definitely a family weight style game, at least in terms of its rule set. Super simple to play. just take a plot of land or build a building. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to build up your money intake, you're trying to build up your population in order to score points, but you need to secure those plots of lands by particular rows and columns in order to place your bigger buildings. But I love the freedom and flexibility you have here when, once you've committed to a small building, that's not for the rest of the game. You can remove it from the board and replace it with a bigger one once you've secured the land around it. Lots of piggybacking of other players' actions here. Really interactive, and I just love everything about it. It kind of reminds me of a maybe less boisterous and a bit more of a laid-back version of a game like Chinatown, but less reliant on the negotiation and more reliant on kind of taking the right opportunities at the right time. Really charming. I definitely can see this one holding up for years and years and years because it is so smooth and simple. That is Foundations of Metropolis at number 4. At number 3, I have Terra Pyramides, a game that's flown very much under the radar this year, despite it being a Kramer and Kiesling design. Now, I think BGG lists this as a 2023 game, but I don't see it as that. This game wasn't even on the radar in 2023, and it certainly was not available here until halfway through 2024. So I'm quite confident categorizing this as a 2024 game. This game is definitely a throwback to the Euros of yesteryear. In this one, you are placing these tiles on this communal board, creating rows and columns of these tiles, which will also grant you access to different resources or workers to populate these pyramids, and then you're trading in resources in order to improve the levels of these pyramids to get more and more points. Again, lots of interaction and piggybacking of other players' efforts. I like the way that you are rewarded points in different ways, not only by building up your pyramids taller and taller, but also by surrounding pyramids, by climbing tracks, and so on. And there are even different versions of the games you can play through these different modules that are included in the box. I love the way this is also boiled down to only having one tile in your hand at any time, so you're not overwhelmed by choices, but it's all about trying to find that optimal choice on your turn. This one, again, exactly what I want from a Euro game. Easy on the rule set, but rich on the decisions, smooth gameplay without any fussy rules or any rules minutiae. Is fantastic and should be played way more than it is being. So hopefully it will become more widely available soon. So that is Terra Pyramides at number 3. At number 2, I have Cvoluion. So the second Steffenfeld game on the list, and certainly a step up as compared to a game like Catman, because this is probably, in fact, definitely Steffenfeld's heaviest and most ambitious game to date. It is a Civilization style game, but it is loosely that. It is more of a traditional Euro. As you are climbing a lot of tracks, you are exploring this communal map. You are harvesting food to feed your people. You are multiplying your people. You're trying to complete a kind of in-round objective as well as end-game objectives, improving an engine of cars to give you unique abilities and actions. So tons going on here in terms of not only its width, but also its depth. I love the way that you can improve your player board to make your actions better and better. Each game is going to dictate the pace in a different way because you are incentivized to go for different things each game, so that you can't really stick to a fixed path. You can't really do everything here, so I like the way that it can bring you back and make you try something different. And despite being so broad and so much going on here, and initially quite intimidating, I think the game is actually remarkably easy to play and easy to teach because it is boiled down to that dice system that is so reminiscent to Castles of Burgundy, where you are allocating these dice to take certain actions. You do have mitigation tools, but sometimes you can do without that and just work with what you have. A game that is definitely improving each time I play it as I'm becoming more familiar with things. It's competitive, but you still have a bit of free reign to do what you want to do without too much focus on other people ruining what you can do. And yeah, it's just so enjoyable when it, like sandboxy, but in a good way, because normally I don't get on with sandboxy style games. And yeah, I'm kind of liking everything this game has to offer at the moment, and I can see it climbing even more. Not going to be the easiest game to table because it does take 3 hours or so to play, but every minute of that gameplay is worth it in my opinion, and it has lived up to my very high expectations. So that is Cvoluion at number 2. And finally, at number 1, I have Rebirth. So Reiner Knizia still making absolute bangers after all these years. You know, the game of the year here. This is more familiar to Knizia's root building style games, with a bit of area control. You know, think of games like Havalandi, Babylonia, Samurai. This has kind of cherry-picked bits from all of those games and put it in this wonderful design that still feels distinct and unique in its own right. This one, you only have one tile in your hand at any time. You're placing it on a location which can be restrictive depending on the symbol, or it can be a free space. And you are trying to build up blocks of the same symbol to amplify your points. You're trying to surround these castles. You're trying to get objective cards and complete those objectives. You're even competing over these settlements in terms of area control. So lots of interlocking systems here where, again, you are only restricted to one token placement at any time, but you have lots of things you can do with that one token. As soon as I played this one, I instantly fell in love with it, as did other people I played this game with. Gorgeous visual design, very colourful, just a joy to play really, and it strikes that perfect balance between feeling kind of light-hearted and breezy, but still competitive at the same time. And despite how open the board looks initially, it does quickly become populated by other players' tokens, and your opportunities start to dry up. But it's all about, again, trying to squeeze every single point out of each of these tile placements. Cannot praise this one enough. It is Knizia at its best. You know, this is top tier Knizia for me after all these years. So that is Rebirth, a very well deserved number 1. So that concludes the video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. I'll just run through a couple more games here just to give you an idea about what was runners up. So at number 11 I had Inori, a lovely worker placement style game. 12 I had Fairy Ring, 13 Middle Ages, 14 Clink, and then I had other games like Ironwood and stuff just behind that. But hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel. Also stay tuned for my top 10 new to me games of 2024, as well as the 2024 Chairman's Choice Awards. But for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye-bye.